Thousands of people turn to the internet for help because they have a burning computer and network problem that they cannot solve. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the Packet A-Team.
Gary Rogers here with another case study from PacketBomb.com. This comes from an email subscriber asking why file uploads with a new firewall is slower than with the old firewall. Now, to his credit, he did a solid analysis, just wanted some help understanding why the old firewall had better throughput. So he sent me a PCAP of the new firewall and then PCAPs from the old firewall. So what we have here is a PCAP from the new firewall and why the performance is so bad. So let's just jump in and see what we can figure out. Now, step one, when you're doing packet analysis, and this is very important, before you do anything else, you need to open your beer. Okay, then take a drink. Now you can get started. Okay, so I want to first give a shout out to my guy here for doing a good job of getting me good data. So if I look at the conversations, I've got one TCP conversation. So this is the slow upload. And he said he works in a data center, lots of Cisco Nexus stuff, and performance, is usually not in their realm of problems they're troubleshooting. So this is sort of a one-off. So getting me solid data that I don't have to dig through a bunch of crap to know what I'm looking for, kudos there. Because getting the right data and narrowing it down is half the battle. So let's look at what he's talking about in terms of throughput. So if we go to summary and we scroll down for this PCAP, we're looking at right around 5 megabits. Okay, so he doesn't know what the baseline was when it was good, but 5 is bad because someone called and said, hey, this has gotten really slow since you guys made a change, changed the firewall. So I like to look at the round trip time when I'm concerned about throughput. And I can see here's the SYN and SYNAC. And between the SYN and SYNAC, there are 23 milliseconds delta. So that tells me this was captured on the client side. We saw the packet go out, the SYN packet go out, cross the WAN, come back to the client, and we captured the SYNAC there. So that is 23 milliseconds. And because it's between the SYN and SYNAC, we know this is on the client side capture. So the next thing I like to do, just jump right in. When I'm doing throughput analysis, I look at the stream graph. So you want to click on a packet of the sending side. So client server doesn't matter. It could be upload, download. But whoever is sending data, click on a packet, go to statistics, TCP stream graph, and TCP trace. And this is where I like to start. So this is bytes over time. This is seconds down here. This is sequence number, which is just bytes up here. So the steeper the line, the more the throughput. So we can see this going smoothly up and to the right, which isn't bad in general, but you have to think about how much time that is and how many bytes that is. And if you do the math, it's not. We know it's not great throughput, 5 megabits per second. So this dark line is the data. This lighter line up top is the receive window of the side that's receiving. So the space between here is how much room is in the receive window. Let's just zoom in. And we can see these little stacks of things going up, and these are the actual packets. So so if there's a flat line, that's bad. There's nothing happening. A flat line means nothing's happening, rather. So I like to zoom in and click on one right before the first one after a pause, and that will take me to that spot in the capture so I can see what's going on. So this is data being sent, and the pause happens right up here. See this? There's 22. That's the round trip time. So what's happening here is this is the client uploading FTP, right? So it's sending, this is data, 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 push, data, 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 push. And so I like to use a coloring flag for push flags, so they jump out at me. And if you're a protocol analyzer, something should jump out at you right away. push flag at exactly 8K and a push flag at exactly 16K. So what that tells you is the application is writing data in chunks of 8K and handing it to TCP/IP, handing it to the stack. And then the stack is sending out 16K at a time. It's waiting a full round trip for the ACKs to come in. Once the data comes in as ACKed, it sends out more data. And guess what? 16 more K. And then it waits round trip time and 16 more K over and over again. So if we go back to our graph, that's exactly what we're seeing here. Is this is 16K, and then it has to wait a round trip time, 16 more K, round trip time, 16K, over and over again. And, as I said, the receive window is way up here. This is all space that the sender could be trying to fill, but it's not. It's bound by something. And because we know it's not the receive window, and it's consistently following these 8K and 16K boundaries, this is most assuredly the application behavior. And the send buffer on the client that's sending the data is 16K. It can only send 16K because that's the size of the send buffer, and it has to wait a round trip time for the acknowledgments to come back before it can send more. So the analysis for this is your application is where the bottleneck is. And in terms of receive windows and congestion windows and send buffers, I highly recommend a web page. Here I have called Understanding Throughput in TCP Windows, where I talk about all the factors that can come into play when you're talking about throughput. Bytes in flight, congestion window, send buffer, what I just talked about. Very important stuff. So I recommend I'll put a link to this in the video, under the video, something like that. So that's the analysis. You can say, sorry, this is not the network. This is the application that won't send enough data to fill up the pipe, based on the round trip time. So then, okay, great, we got it. But why was it so fast before? So let's go look at, this is a capture with the older firewall, okay? So let's have a look at the summary and the throughput, and we're looking at, almost 23. So between 4 and 5 times faster than our first capture. So what's different? Round trip time, well, huge difference. It is 55 microseconds, not 23 milliseconds. That is a huge difference. Okay, let's have a look at the graph. Big difference. We're sending a lot more data. We still see some pauses in here that are probably pretty close to round trip, but then the amount of data we're sending at each go is much more. So it's able to send more and more at a time here. So let's just kind of jump in and look at the behavior. Let's get in here a bit. Okay, so what I'm seeing is the same kind of behavior. 8K push, 16K push, and then ACKs, and no more data. And then once the ACKs come in, we start it again with bytes in flight back to 0, and then we send our first packet, 8K, 16K, wait for the ACKs, and more. So what's the difference here? The difference is the round trip time. The behavior of the client is exactly the same, but because the round trip time is microseconds and not milliseconds, we sort of put a band-aid over this really shitty behavior. So that's why our throughput is much higher. Latency is king when it comes to these kinds of things. So let's look at so if this is the round trip time, then clearly the firewall is acting as a proxy, which it is. So if we look at the outside interface, so this is the outside interface. This is the firewall now talking across the WAN to the actual FTP server. We have a round trip time of, in this case, around 17 milliseconds. So if we do the stream graph, well, first let's look at summary. And here we're looking at around a little over 17 megabits per second on the WAN side. So if we do the stream graph, we can see that it is sending more and more each time. For each round trip, it's sending more and more and more, right? This little black line is getting longer, and then it's done. So the file, that's it. So this is pretty much textbook slow start, right? But because the file size, if we go statistics, protocol hierarchy, and look at just the TCP data, it's 950K. So we finished sending the file before we really got ramped up. But if you go back to the beginning, here's the first data we're sending. We're sending 2, and then we wait the round trip time for ACK. Then we send 1, 2, 3, wait the round trip time for an ACK. Then we send 1, 2, 3, 4, wait the round trip time for the ACK. That's classic textbook slow start. But if we scroll way further down in here, look at the bytes in flight. It's much higher than 16K. So the send buffer on the firewall that's doing the proxy is clearly not limited to 16K. So that's the difference. It's able to achieve much higher throughput by being able to put more data on the wire, not little bursts, little burst, little burst, and wait. Now we would even get faster throughput if we could increase the initial congestion window. See, it starts out at 2 and increases for each ACK that it's getting. If you start out at like 10, which is a lot of more modern stacks do that these days, they start out at a much higher number, you would ramp up even quicker and you'd finish this in even a shorter amount of time. So the analysis, the answer to the question is the reason the throughput is better is, one, because we have a local proxy that covers over this really crappy application behavior, but then the proxy itself has a much better TCP implementation, but the settings that it's using for its send buffer is much higher and much better for performance over WAN. So it's sort of covering over the bad performance of the client. So that's the analysis. Again, I recommend you read over this page to get a better understanding. At the bottom, there's a link to another one where we talk about something similar. Make sure you drink your beer before it gets warm. I'll see you guys next time.